Okay, we are back. Let's try this again. I am over to the side a little bit more because we're going to be watching the match between Taya Valkyrie and Britt Baker that was supposed to be like this big dream match, and it ended up being an absolute travesty of wrestling. After this, we're going to have a discussion about the match and the reaction from it because I think it is important to talk about.
Absolutely.
So let's get into it right now. And we'll be pausing and doing all the fun stuff like we did before.
What the?
Why is she down? Like, number one, the pacing of this match was awful.
Yeah, it's already looking pretty bad.
You're just.
I mean, and then here's the thing too: is that Taya Valkyrie, if she's with the right people, she actually performs well.
Yeah, she did great in Impact. She was a great Impact World Champion, and she does fine in Mexico. She has a Triple Mania match in August. She's defending the Reina de Reinas champion.
My God, this is what happens, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but it brings up a lot of this just lack of training. I mean, this is a result of it.
They're wrestling in.
They're wrestling in front of a crowd. They're wrestling live on television. I mean,
Here's the thing. This match is erosion slow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was watching it live, or not live, but that night, and I'm like...
When during the show did this match take place?
I believe this was penultimate.
Okay.
Actually, I can look on my notes because I have it in order. I believe it was either penultimate or right before penultimate. There I am.
And this probably...
No, yes, it was. This was penultimate main.
And then this is also probably the only women's match on the show, am I right? Okay.
Okay, these two did a total combination of like 3 moves, and yet they are down like they've been wrestling for 20 minutes.
Right.
But you're right, Taya is a good wrestler.
Yeah, she's a great wrestler. I mean, even her time in NXT, as brief as it was,
her stuff in Lucha Underground was good.
Yeah.
You can just tell that great camera work, by the way, just stellar. Didn't see the impact. All I just saw was essentially something that I'd have to pay $5.99 on OnlyFans for.
Right.
Well, that's what happens when you do this awful-ass camera work. Why is everybody going so... This is not slowed down either. This is 100% how fast they were going.
Right, you're at 1x speed. You're at regular, normal speed.
Yep.
I mean, they've been wrestling for like 3 minutes, and yeah, you're right. It seems like they're acting like they've been wrestling for a long time.
Right. See, Taya knows in-ring presence. Baker just does not.
No.
Like, at all. She has no situational awareness. I mean, she's been in this company since day one. I think she was literally in the first match. It just doesn't feel special anymore.
Right. I mean, the only reason why she was as popular as she was is because she does well on the mic.
Yeah. Well, she was the best out of any of the people that were doing that.
Right.
That was a weird... Okay, she just stood there.
Right. You can't just stand there. You have to make it look like it's a naturally occurring thing.
That whole sequence felt so staged.
It was.
It's simulated combat. Tell me the story that you two hate each other and are fighting instead of just standing there while Baker goes off the ropes for, I am not kidding you, 3 seconds.
She was just standing there.
Oh, here's the move.
Here it is. Famous move.
That didn't get all of it.
Okay, and then she's punching that floor there pretty well too.
Okay, she's not even punching. She's punching the air.
Oh now she's punching, elbowing the floor there. Looks
on the side. Good.
Yeah.
What did the mat ever do?
Right. What did the mat ever do to you? Oh, a nice camera work, by the way, production.
Yeah, this is not good. This crowd is dead.
Yep, the crowd is dead. Taya just doesn't care anymore. Britt is trying to care, but she's terrible.
She's terrible. Great piped-in crowd noise there.
Yep.
It's like nobody is enthusiastic after that just absolute travesty.
It's just so bad. I mean, you just heard nothing from this. The one thing we hear about from this week's Dynamite is legitimately this match. Because it was so bad.
It's still slow as molasses in January.
Yep. And look at how much taunting she's doing. It's just like, okay, come on. You guys can't be this exhausted after this short a time.
How is that hurting anybody? That wouldn't hurt anybody.
Right.
Put the knee at least to the back of the neck or something. At the very least, put some pressure on. Taya knows better, but you can just tell that she knows this thing is like dead.
Yeah, she knows the match is dead.
You can tell on the body language.
Yep.
Like she just doesn't care.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with Ruby Soho. Whenever she does a thing, that was terrible.
That was atrociously slow and awful. Come on, there we go. Come
on.
She was just standing
I know.
there. That was 3 seconds, but it felt like 20 minutes. That was horrible. At least there was a decent move.
Yeah, look at her. Look at Taya's.
Her entire body language, her demeanor is just deflated.
Well, yeah, I think it's just that.
That's why it's going as slow as it is.
Yeah.
Nobody is interacting with this match. They're just like, what are we watching?
Right. Yeah, people.
I mean, this is going to be the longest match that we've done on this segment by a mile, but come on.
God, this is just.
There's no struggle.
Yeah, there is no struggle
They're
at all.
They're not struggling.
Right.
Great camera work.
Yep.
This
just wonderful camera work.
They just want to show the entrance. I like the entrance, though. Wow. But a little more emphasis. Okay, this is like the 8th or 9th time they've been in a corner of some kind.
Because Taya doesn't care.
They've done this spot before, didn't they?
I don't remember.
I think they did it like 2 or 3 times.
Oh yeah, I remember because the second time
the first time it was like I said,
the camera,
right? That was the 20th clothesline. That was slow. Taya's just standing there. That cravat is fucking awful.
All right, those were the weakest knees I've ever seen.
Great camera work.
Yep. Those weren't even knees. Those were thighs. Thighs to the head. Yeah, that's gonna hurt.
That's gonna hurt.
No, you want to make it look like they're actually kneeing because the knee is a hard part. The thigh is not as hard.
I mean, okay, that was a good elbow strike. I'll give her that. Look at that.
Gets up immediately.
Taya does not care. She knows.
Where's the sell? She's not even selling anymore.
I wouldn't sell anymore. That was a good shot too, and no
selling, selling at all for the best shot that Britt Baker is going to give all match.
We're just going to stand there.
Yeah, I mean she's literally just toying with this at this point.
Oh my god! I watched this once and I didn't realize how actually bad it was.
I mean, look at this. I mean, yeah, I get it that Taya is a bigger person, but you have to
Where's the oomph?
You have to give Britt Baker some degree of believability as a wrestler at this point. What the fuck is this?
She just standing there.
Yeah, just standing there. Again, no selling at all. It's just oh.
Now, that was a good clothesline. Oh, my God. That was
a bad clothesline.
The knee was good, but you could have done a little more with that clothesline.
I mean, Britt Baker is giving more emphasis on the shots to make it at least look somewhat believable. Taya just doesn't care if this is believable at this point.
But once again, look at her body language. The shoulders are now extremely slumped, and she's just she knows this is a disaster.
Yeah.
Oh, God, this was bad.
Oh my God, that delay was just awful.
It's just a match of horrible delays. And why isn't Baker fighting?
Right.
There's no fight. There's some sort of fight, but man, it took her an eternity to get there.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. Oh, and look at that. Look at how she walked right into that very position right there.
There is a way you could have done that without it making look like it's choreographed. This feels like a choreographed exhibition.
It's not supposed to feel choreographed. It's supposed to feel natural. Aren't you people fucking like performers or something? Like, come on.
That was the most horrible. I mean, Adam Cole just does that. What is that called? That destroyer move.
Yeah. Panama Sunrise.
Panama Sunrise. It's like boom, boom, nice and smooth. It took her like I swear to God, 3 more seconds. Nobody said it.
I know. No, I heard that. That was piped, man.
Oops, sorry, that was my bad. Another forearm, another fucking kick.
Another knee. At least her knees look more believable than Britt Baker's.
There we go. A spear, but Baker sold that horribly. Not Taya Valkyrie, but Britt Baker has been selling the same exact way the entire match instead of a progression.
What the fuck was that?
And then a tap out immediately.
That was so stupid.
So, Taya Valkyrie challenged Baker for this match.
Yep.
And she lost. And once again, lost. She's a loser.
Yeah. But anyways.
That was an I saw that match already, and that was just as bad.
That was the first. So I've seen clips of this match. I never saw the match in its entirety, but I knew that we had to talk about this match. So let's address pretty much the elephant in the room. Let's address the reaction on Twitter, because Taya Valkyrie did follow up with this on Twitter. I don't know if Britt Baker has followed up with this at all.
Yeah, they both did.
Okay, so
they acted like fucking children.
Right. So let's address how the fans.
I should have grabbed some of that.
Let's address how the fans reacted, because I think the fans
justifiably
have it all right. I think the fans have it all wrong, though. I don't think that it's the fault of Britt Baker or Taya Valkyrie. It has nothing to do with their size or how well trained they are or whatever the case may be.
It has, but there's no one person to blame. Both of them are at fault.
Yes, both of them are at fault for this equally.
Here's the thing: we explained this, and I think it's because Taya is a good wrestler. Baker not so much, but Taya is a good wrestler, and you can tell as soon as botches started to pile up, her entire demeanor changed.
Yes.
And it's like...
And so it's not necessarily
she didn't care.
Right. It's not necessarily her in-ring ability. It's because she stopped caring about the match in the middle of this match. Now, let's talk about, why this match, I guess, failed so hard. And I think that it has to do with the lack of familiarity with one another, if you want to put it that way.
Yep.
So
these two had never had an interaction before this.
Right. So let's talk about, because inevitably we're going to compare this to the system that WWE has, where they do live shows.
They need to train. NXT does a house show, for God's sake.
Right.
They do that.
Right. And this AEW does not run house shows
anymore.
At least not on a consistent basis. Now they like to hype them up, but WWE wrestlers will train with against one another probably 4 or 5 times before it's even on live television. You know why? Because they have to get familiar with how each other operates.
There is a standard that WWE is expecting from their competitors. And I think that it is a lot closer guarded and a lot closer to what it's supposed to be than what AEW does. I just don't think they care. And it's like, this is such a prime example of a lot of issues that AEW has right now.
The biggest one, I think, being that you have all these wrestlers under contract, but you don't run them against each other. You don't allow them the opportunity to get more familiar with each other. Now,
there is a consistency issue, and it's not just from the wrestlers, it's in the presentation.
Right.
The issue is that the roster's so bloated, they try to get everybody in there. It's like Baker will go, she won't be wrestling probably for another 3 or 4 weeks. How can you get better if you're not constantly in the ring competing in some way, shape, or form?
And we'll address we'll address Britt Baker more specifically a little bit later on in this conversation, but I just want to talk about how AEW's lack of house shows hurts them. And
I believe that.
And it's one thing to say that, okay, well, Impact Wrestling doesn't run house shows. Yeah, but Impact Wrestling talent only compete for Impact Wrestling like one weekend a month.
They can go to any other show and continue to wrestle.
Exactly. And they continue to wrestle each other.
There is a lot more flexibility with Impact in their system.
Yes.
It's like once a month we do a ton of TV tapings. You're in the ring wrestling like 4 or 5 times a night, and they structure it that way.
Not necessarily 4 or 5 times a night, but you're wrestling once a night.
Right.
And you're getting more familiar as the shows go on.
And then after that,
you're free to do whatever the fuck you want, as
Right.
long as it's not on television. So, like, people, they'll go out and do these indie shows, and they'll still wrestle against each other at these indie shows. I see the cards. It's like you'll see Moose at random indie shows on a weekend when he's not doing Impact tapings and he's wrestling someone else from the Impact Wrestling roster.
Or they have the ability and the actual care to train themselves. It's like if you want to get better, there are plenty of wrestling schools that you can hop into and do drills and train.
But see, with AEW's schedule where it's live television every single week, they don't have really the opportunity to go to other wrestling promotions.
AEW is their priority.
Right.
They can,
but they often don't because they don't have time in their schedules because of the AEW obligations.
Exactly. WWE has an internal system of the way that I just described. They can get training in their own little system.
And then they get house show experience. Like, before John Cena and Edge faced each other on live television for the first time back in 2004, I think that they wrestled each other probably 10 times in house shows.
We went to one of those.
We did.
You remember they had a WWE champion match. I remember this. It was RVD, Edge, John Cena. They had such familiarity with each other. That's why there was magic.
Yes, that's why. Because they got the practice.
Roman Reigns wrestles house shows.
Yes.
He wrestled in Mexico City, I think like 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that even after the show, for example, like you'll see, like last time we were at SmackDown taping, AJ Styles faced somebody for the WWE champion.
Yeah.
Because that was when AJ Styles was WWE champion.
But they have these smaller shows too. They have main event. They have level up. They have these smaller things where it's like, hey.
And they're on television as well to give the people who may be training experience being on television.
Or there will be a dark main event, and then there are dark matches before the show where you will see like AJ Styles and the OC. I don't know why you keep bringing them up. You see these people wrestle each other constantly. If you're going to these shows, they have like 2 or 3 matches on a SmackDown before SmackDown happens, and then a match for the live crowd, where it's just like. A tag team match with Seth Rollins, AJ Styles facing, I don't know.
Right, like who cares? But
that's the crux of the issue is that they get that familiarity with each other.
That AEW just does not provide. Now, I've never been to an AEW show myself besides a pay-per-view, but that's different. But I don't know how many dark matches they can possibly do.
I don't think they do, because if they did, people would say stuff about it.
Yeah.
They talk about these matches on Raw and SmackDown all the time.
Yeah.
I just don't think they do that.
Yeah. So Britt Baker and Taya Valkyrie, this is probably their first experience working with each other. And this is not how you do things on live television. That's why there are so many botches with AEW, is because these people are not familiar with each other.
Right. It's like you can be a good wrestler, but what are you supposed to do? And then let's talk about Baker's direct issue other than being a sucky-ass wrestler.
She's a full-time fucking dentist.
She does not work 1 day a week in her dentist's office. How do you think you can get any better if you are working with another profession? Hey, you know what? If she wants to do that, go for it.
Right. But you're not going to improve as a wrestler if you don't give yourself more time to actually practice the art of wrestling with other wrestlers, with other wrestling promotions, with if AEW starts running house shows, that would be a start, but how many of these obligations is Britt Baker going to show up to?
Yeah, exactly. How many? It's very strange that she does this. And like I said, it's not an issue as it relates to that. I mean, Alex Shelley, He's right now the Impact World Champion, but he's also a psychiatrist.
Right. But again, Impact Wrestling only runs one weekend a month.
Right.
And then he can work whatever dates he wants to work. I mean, he still works a lot with New Japan Pro Wrestling on weekends.
Yeah.
He works with Strong. And then and I know for a fact that he works other promotions as well.
Yeah,
as we've
seen cards like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I understand where you're coming at, and there are different wrestlers within AEW that have a different level of experience and do a lot differently. So like Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli wrestle in the same show, but they are on television constantly.
Right.
These two are not.
Right, and again, the experience that you get with working in the WWE system also comes to mind. Britt Baker has never worked in the WWE system.
Taya Valkyrie did. It was brief, and she was in NXT, but I think that but she also worked a lot more before that. She worked with Lucha Underground. Right. That's where I got first exposed to her, was in Lucha Underground.
Impact Wrestling.
Right. And
Triple A.
Yeah, her Triple A experience. She has a lot more experience outside of it. Baker really is just...
This is, I think, her first major promotion she's ever worked in, outside of being a jobber for Nia Jax, but...
Right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But they'll bring people in like that to be squashed.
Right, exactly.
she was in wrestling school at that time. So
right.
But anyways, I think the issue is that AEW doesn't run house shows. And with that being
they also don't have a training school.
No.
It's like at least have a system.
They have unofficial training schools like the Factory, but they don't have an official training. Like, they don't have an official program. Like, all they do is their stuff on television.
Yeah.
They're not running house shows. They're, and it would be one thing if you could
The schedule is too daunting.
Right. The schedule is too dominant week by week.
There are three shows within AEW. Three. One of them, and all three of them, well, no, five. There are 5 hours of programs, and if you are called to be there, even if you're not wrestling, you're called to be there.
Right.
How are you expected to get better if you bring everybody on the roster in when only use like
20% of it?
Right. 10% of it. Let's be honest.
And I think it's just an issue with AEW just not doing they're not doing their wrestlers, they're not doing their contracted employees justice by essentially dragging you down 2 days a week, not allowing you to work other promotions. I don't really know the whole nature of that.
Also, what are the restrictions of AEW on working certain promotions?
Right.
It's like, well, and also these other promotions have to say, yes, I want to book you for a show.
Right.
Especially now we have Saturday shows.
Right.
It's like,
and now you just cut off your roster from working a potential promotion, like other promotions. You just cut them off from that completely.
They run these shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, what are you expecting here?
WWE. How do you expect them to get experience when they have
They're not running a fucking show on Monday. They're going to run them on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, and WWE is fine with that because they keep all their contracted employees within the promotion, and then they run shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
There's just no structure.
No.
There's no way for these wrestlers to have any sort of experience in or out. They don't have like a system like WWE has.
Right.
Where it's like
they don't have the system of WWE with their live shows. And then they also don't have the same freedoms of Impact Wrestling individual. Impact Wrestling.
I don't think they have a standard of quality within AEW.
I don't think so either.
And I think that's what WWE has. Like, if you are not doing the best of your performance, then I'm sorry, you're not going to be there.
Right.
These two just got thrown together in a match.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not how it's supposed to be done. LA Knight's put on television all the time because they have a standard for him, and he keeps up with it. If you start gaining weight, if you start losing muscle mass, if you start having an issue, you're not booked anymore.
Right.
If it's the Wild West.
Right. If you start making mistakes, you're no longer booked. Why do you think that people who make mistakes in WWE are not booked as often? It's because they make mistakes.
It's like we have these resources for you to get better, and we expect you to do so. This company does not have that, and it would be in their best interest to do that. And I think Impact Wrestling has a better standard than...
Well, yeah. But again, Impact Wrestling allows their wrestlers the freedom to work any other promotion other than, the weekends that Impact is run. The problem with this is that, again, you have 2 live shows you have 2 shows every single, they have to be available for AEW every single week without an option to not.
Right.
So it's like Wednesday, you have to be there because that's when they do Dynamite and that's when they tape Rampage. And then Saturday, you have to be there when they do Collision Live and then they tape Ring of Honor.
Right, exactly. It's like, it's almost like the same contract with Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing here?
Right.
So that's kind of all we got. Anyway, if there's anything that we said that were lies, let us know in the comments down below.
I think we did a pretty good job with kind of explaining why this match went the way it did.
It really did. There was a lot of issues here. So if you guys did enjoy this content,
what are we doing next week? Well, next week obviously we're doing SummerSlam
and NXT Great American Bash.
Yep.
So we have 2 things on there. If you guys did enjoy this video, remember to like, follow, subscribe, become a patron. Scan the QR code here. I also get some hats. It will all be there or in the description. But as always, be
majestic.